friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 703. Tighten that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. It is that time of the week once again, my friends, when we get to give it a go. Because we going back to who? Mike from that chapter. That chapter Wednesday, Bean Team. And the title of the video is Wife Realizes Police Discovered Her Lover's Disturbing Secret. Now, did the wife know about the secret beforehand or not? You know what I'm saying, Bean Team? Is she in on this secret and then trying to act all shocked now that the police know about it? Like, I didn't even know he was doing that. Or was she in on it the whole freaking time? I don't know, but we're about to see. But before we see, Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. It is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
Is this your husband?
Yes. 5 shot.
He's a firefighter.
Get the med kit. He's still got a pulse.
Gosh.
He's starting compressions now.
Stay with me. Stay with me.
Heart's still pumping. Robbie! He's done, dude. Damn it!
Oh God, no.
Tuesday. A 5-minute phone call had just ended and was swiftly deleted from the phone's history. What those two people talked about, we don't know. We may never. But it all pointed to a deadly plan and a dirty little secret.
Tell us what happened. Tell us what happened.
I've only met him a few times.
But you had a 5-minute conversation with him.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike. And in this old video, when an exhausted firefighter was just getting ready to finish up his shift, he was pulling into the driveway of his home. Horror struck minutes after. Someone had been waiting. But who this person was and why they had done this would only be found in the most twisting and sort of, idiotic way. As you do. But before we get into it, please subscribe to see new stories for the dark every single Tuesday. Now, you and I, let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. And get whatever you may need. And I'm just gonna say off the bat, Bean Team, I don't think the wife is telling the truth in that interrogation time. I don't know. You do know what the freak happened. I think she set her husband up. But let's give it a go and let's find out.
Shortly after 7 p.m., February 26th, 2019, 51-year-old firefighter Robbie Dorr was pulling into his driveway just after finishing up a 12-hour shift at the Evansville Fire Department, Evansville, Indiana, his home city. It had been a long day for Robbie, so he was beat. He'd chill out for a bit at home with his wife Becky before heading off to the lab, to the bed, right? But unfortunately for Robbie, he wouldn't get that far. Robert Dorr wouldn't even make it to the door. Seconds after he pulled up in his car, his wife Becky Fox Dorr, she called 911, making this horrifying phone call.
Evansville 911.
I need an ambulance.
What's the address?
I need help, please.
What's the address?
2728 Oakley Street.
What's going on there?
My husband just got shot.
You said your husband just got shot?
Yes.
Stay on the line. I'll connect you to the ambulance service, okay?
I'm on the phone. Rob. Rob. I don't know. I just heard a bunch of popping. Please get somebody here. I don't. Rob. Oh my God.
Ma'am, I need you to listen to me, okay, ma'am? Listen. Tell me what happened.
I don't know. I saw a truck pull in. I saw his headlights, ma'am. All I saw was my husband's headlights pull into the driveway, and then I heard a bunch of popping.
Where's your husband?
He's on our front walk. He's alive.
I ain't gonna lie, that initial phone call, she sound kind of convincing, don't it? You know what I'm saying? If she acting, she doing a great job so far. Just saying.
All I saw was his headlights pull in, and the next thing I know, I hear a bunch of popping. I don't even know how many. I did not see.
Is this your husband?
Yes.
Yeah, his name is Robert Dorr. He's a firefighter.
Get the med kit. He's still got a pulse.
Gosh.
He's starting compressions now.
Stay with me. Stay with me.
Heart's still pumping.
Almost immediately after Robbie Dorr had gotten out of his truck in his driveway, he'd gotten out, closed the door in this bitterly cold February evening. He was going to go get his bag that was in the rear of the truck, which contained, all his clothes that he used to change while he'd been in, his shift at the fire station, right? But as he turned his back to his house and was opening up the rear door, shots rang out. 2 shots. He was shot twice in the back. Robbie had tried to find cover behind the rear of his truck, but had been shot again as he did so. This time by shotgun. 5 shots in total were fired. Robbie passed away then and there. Becky, alone in the home, hearing the shots, she ran out screaming, and she managed to call 911. The police and EMTs raced over. It was a chaotic and emotional scene. Many of the emergency responders, they knew Robbie, and they knew him well.
I just realized who it is.
Robbie! Robbie!
You got anything?
Connect electrodes.
Just flush it. Robbie! Robbie! He's done, dude.
Damn it!
Oh, God, no. Oh.
Damn it!
Does he know him? That's just makes a small department, man.
He's got a fireman shirt on.
Let's get them up out of here. Hey, man, let's go back this way. Come on.
Let's go right.
Hey, I know, man. I don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but we got to get the fire out of here because that's one of theirs.
Man.
Robbie had served the city of Evansville for almost 30 years, but it was too late and too much damage had been done for them to be able to help him in any sort of way.
Things are beginning to wrap up here. There are still a few Evansville police officers here on scene and a few Evansville firefighters who have come here to the scene as well. Let me show you. We are at the 2700 block of Oakley Street. Here's what police tell us happened tonight. Police say that just after 7 o'clock tonight, they had several calls come in reporting shots fired. One of those callers said that they saw a man down on the ground. We're told the victim was shot and died here at the scene. Police say they do know who the victim is, but they are not releasing his name just yet. Right now, police are out talking to neighbors, trying to gather any information they can about a possible suspect. But right now, they tell me they have no information about a suspect or any vehicle description.
That very night, the investigators tried to establish some idea of what had happened and how it had happened. Robbie had been shot in the back, and he'd been facing the rear of his truck going to retrieve items. That meant that the shooter had been close to the home, in front of his truck. And then this mysterious shooter had fled into the night before anyone could catch a glimpse.
It's like, y'all, what I'm doing right now in my head, I'm sitting back thinking because I already think that the wife set him up. Long story short, story long. You know what I'm saying? But I'm thinking the why part. Why did she do this to her husband? Why did she get her husband killed? And there's only 2 things I can come up with. Only 2 things. Number 1, it's the infamous thing over here on Mike channel. Freaking life insurance, man. Freaking life insurance. If not that, I'm thinking that she was having an affair with somebody. Is another man involved and they wanted to kill him so they could be together or something. I don't know. I'm just sitting back here thinking right now. But at the same time, I could be completely wrong. Maybe she didn't set him up. I don't know. Let's go.
What was strange, though, is that the shooter must have been standing, in the porch, almost, in the door, for where the shots hit Robbie. And the shots were fired in quick succession, and then the shooter fled, booked it. Yet something that jumped out right away to the investigators was that, there was 5 shots fired in total. Some of the shells had even hit houses that were directly across the street, but on the ground, there was no spent casings, anything like that, like you would expect there to be. But everything happened so fast, it didn't seem like the shooter would have had time to pick them up. Police, when they began canvassing the neighborhood, they also would have expected to hear tires squealing, a revving engine of a getaway vehicle, but they didn't hear anything like that either. It was like this guy was a ghost, whoever the shooter was, because they just vanished into the night, but there was no clue as to where they had gone to. And that was only the beginning. So, who was Robbie Dorr?
Hold on, time out. From what Mike just said right then, Bean Team, I came up with another theory. What if she the one who freaking killed him and just made up this mysterious shooter? You know what I'm saying? That's a possibility too. She could have came out. Well, I guess the police would find the weapons or something then though, right? I don't know. That just popped in my head too then, man. This is a crazy one.
Robbie graduated high school in 1985 and followed his father, Robbie Dorr I's, footsteps by enrolling at the Firefighters Academy. Robbie graduated from the academy at age 24 and he never looked back. Despite many offers of promotions over his 28 years, he turned them all down to stay on the front lines. He even earned a commendation along the way for his part in rescuing 12 people from a fire. He was a hero of his community and he lived to serve. I mean, with that mustache, he looks like the most stereotypical of stereotypical firemen. The reason he had been working so long that day was that he had picked up an extra shift, covering for a friend who needed it off. That's the kind of guy Robbie was. He was one of the good ones. He had one daughter from a previous relationship and 2 stepsons with Becky, with whom he'd only been married for 145 days before he was murdered. Robbie didn't do things by halves, and he kept busy. When he wasn't working at the firehouse, he picked up shifts at a fast food restaurant nearby. That is, in fact, where he would meet Elizabeth Becky Fox. They'd known each other for about 11 years before they married, and had tied the knot in Panama City, Florida. Becky didn't have the easiest start to life. She was in the foster system till she was 4 years of age, and then she was adopted by the Fox family, along with another child named Amanda. And so Becky and Mandy would become sisters, as close as if they had the same blood. They would see each other all the time, double date as 2 couples regularly. Becky, her sons, and of course Robbie's daughter were beyond heartbroken upon receiving the news that night.
It's my dad. I have to get down there.
I understand. You're not going through this crime scene.
Okay, well then get my mother down here. Her name is Elizabeth Dorr.
Still, everything's being investigated.
Is he alive?
No, he's not.
Oh my god.
I was afraid to go out at first because I didn't know if there was somebody out there.
Along with Robbie's phone, which had been in his pocket when he had been attacked, investigators, they also seized Becky's phone, and they also got a search warrant to search the door home. I mean, investigations, you always got to start right at the beginning and kind of work your way outwards from there. Perfectly normal in this case to start with the wife and the house itself. However, when detectives retrieved Becky's cell phone records from Sprint, they noticed something odd. There was a strange discrepancy in her phone logs from the night of the shooting, and Becky, she was, overwhelmed at how distraught she was that her husband had been killed mere feet from her. So there being a discrepancy, it was kind of hard to ask her at the time as in why was this, but it just stuck in their minds. Namely, it was a call missing from her actual device. But the call was registered on Sprint's logs. According to Sprint's logs, this mysterious call on Becky's phone, it began at 6:46 and it ended at 6:51. And then she deleted this call. The first call from a neighbor reporting gunshots came at 7:05. So that means that in less than 15 minutes before her husband was murdered, Becky had been on the call to somebody for about 5 minutes and then had taken the time to delete that call from her phone. So who was that? The number in question was saved in Becky's contacts list as Larry Ali. So, who is Larry? Well, he was none other than Becky's sister Amanda, Amanda's boyfriend. His name was Larry Richmond Sr. So what though, right? I mean, people call their partners, you know, other half, spouses, whatever it is, all the time. You know, there's nothing strange that she was talking to her sister's boyfriend minutes before her own husband was killed. She was probably asking about, you know, what to get her sister for her birthday, or could be any number of innocent questions, or innocent talkie talks. Except it just so happened that Larry had only recently been released from the penitentiary. I hear you're barking, big dog. I'll give you one guess. Maybe you got it. He shot a guy. He shot a guy dead. He murdered. Yeah, he murdered somebody. Old Larry Richmond Sr. didn't exactly have the best start in life, and had become a father to Larry Richmond Jr., hence the senior tag, at a very young age. He was only 17 when, one day in June 1996, he was hanging out with a couple of the local lads, and Larry decided to show off a gun he claimed to have found. All three of them were very young, dumb, and full of anything but sense, so they thought it was a great idea to mess around with it. At some point then, they came across another fella, a local fella, named James Montgomery, who was 70 years of age. Soon after Larry came across this James Montgomery, this 1996 summer's day, well, James Montgomery was shot dead in an attempted robbery. Despite being 17 at the time of the crime, Larry was informed he was going to be tried as an adult. Thanks to the murder being committed during the course of a robbery, something naive Larry had readily admitted during the interview, that made it a capital case, so Larry Richmond Sr. was facing the death penalty. He was already screwed by the time he spoke to a lawyer, and the only thing left to do was try and cop a plea. And cop a plea he did. He got 45 years for that, which sounds like a lot, right folks? But then you factor in served time, released on good behavior, a little bit in, a little bit out. He served about half of what he was sentenced to. Larry hadn't even been out long, around 11 months before he shacked up with Amanda Fillmore, who was Becky Fox Doerr's sister. And so now...
Boy, I just gotta speak on it, boy. Once again, my friends, the freaking justice system failing us. Once again, that's a failure, man. That man, first of all, you should have gave him life in prison. That was armed robbery plus a murder. You know what I'm saying, man? He at the age of 17, he should have never been able to be a free man again. To the day he died, he should have been in prison. But on top of that, you're going to give him 45 years. 45 years, and he only served like half of it. He only served like half of that ish. What are we doing? Seriously, this whole good behavior ish. I don't even like. Now, I can understand good behavior for certain crimes. You know, it may give you a better chance of getting out early, not doing your whole sentence. If you being a good person in prison, so to speak, or whatever. But when it comes to murder, I don't care how much good behavior you show in prison, your ass gonna stay up in here. Point blank, period, man. I'm sorry, I had to just point it out, Bean Team. Nah, man, the justice system. If this dude would have never been left out, Robbie would still be alive right now. It's like a repeat offender. Long story short, short story long. Look like that's where we going. A murderer who didn't suffer the consequences that he's supposed to been suffered, and now somebody else gotta suffer. Let's go.
Now the police, they really wanted to talk to him. And he wasn't the only one they wanted to talk to. Like, remember the search of Becky's phone and the subpoena of the call logs? That also kind of put Becky, you know, a little bit up on their own lists of, we should really have a sit-down chat with her about what exactly, like to the T, happened and why did she delete this phone call? What's her excuse? Riddle me this. During the execution of a search warrant on the Doerr's home, in the master bedroom, police discovered a letter in a chest of drawers. The letter seemed to have been written by Robbie Doerr and was addressed to Becky. The content made it pretty clear that things in the Doerr house were far from rosy. It also appeared that there may have been someone else in Becky's romantic life. The letter had lines like, "Ever since he came back into your life," and "I see his text on your phone." So now you got two suspects with a mighty strong motive. That motive being love, which is beautiful, except when it's not. Robbie Doerr's post-mortem exam took place just the day after he was killed. It was confirmed that Robbie had both a jacketed .45 caliber slug and 4 buckshot pellets in his body. A second .45 had passed straight through his shoulder-neck area. The reason this particular combination of ammunition caught the attention of detectives was the distinct lack of spent brass or shells at the scene. This led investigators to believe that the killer's choice of weapon was most likely a .45 revolver that could be loaded with more than one type of ammunition. That meant they were looking for a weapon similar to a Taurus Judge.
The fire department created a reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction in the murder of Robbie Doerr. The Evansville Police Department have not identified any suspects, and the fire department decided they would like to help bring the killer to justice.
I would hope the public would come forward because it's the right thing to do. But as I said before, if there's just somebody out there that feels like, well, what I have to share is really not worthwhile, if a few dollars is a motivator for them to come forward and that's what happens to break the case open, then that's absolutely what we're working for.
In this video, we have the story of a secret. One of those, dirty little ones. A secret a certain someone didn't want anybody else to know. I don't need to explain it to you. You know what's up. You know what's going on. But what if, you wanted to be a secret? Didn't want anybody to know that you existed.
I think Mike is in his commercial, y'all. Like, he be so clever with sucking you into his commercial. But yeah, he at NordVPN. Shout out to NordVPN, man. But hey, one thing that Mike just brought up, the potential of her having a love life outside of Robbie. I said that too. That could be a reason why she ended up doing this, man. Regardless, there's no excuse of what happened to him. Rest in peace to Robbie. But let's get back to it.
With Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you so much to Nord for supporting that chapter. Now, let's get back to it. And folks, get a load of this, right? You won't believe it. Taurus Judge had just been stolen from a local pawn shop like a little over 6 months before Robbie was shot dead. And so then, police discovering that a Taurus Judge had been stolen, something else jumped out of them pretty quickly when they looked at who the current and former list of employees at that pawn shop, who they happened to be. Larry Richmond Jr.
Wow.
So now that's 3 people the police have to talk to. The victim, this guy Larry, and then his son.
Well, Larry, what we've got everybody, it's not just you down here. Obviously, we're looking into the Robert Doerr situation. He was cut down in his driveway.
What's that got to do with me?
Well, it has to do with everybody in the family. We're just trying to get everybody in here to see if there's just anything that can help us with this investigation. Do you wish to talk to me without a lawyer present?
I have no problem answering any of your questions. I will cooperate fully.
Okay.
Due to my past, I have been incarcerated.
Sure.
I'm on probation. I don't need any problems.
Sure, no, I understand.
So if I'm not under arrest, please get a hold of him. I will come back down here and fully cooperate. No problems at all.
All we're trying to do is find out if you guys know anything that could help us find his killer.
I don't know nothing. We go out with him. We go out, we drink. Outside of that there, I don't know nothing.
Larry Richmond Sr. readily admitted that it was his number that had called Becky's phone 5 minutes before Robbie was shot. But Larry Sr. had clearly learned his lesson from the last time he'd been questioned in relation to shooting someone, and this time he quickly stopped speaking and requested a lawyer. Detectives obviously knew at this point that Becky had not told them the truth, or at least not all of it for whatever reason, when she'd talked to them before. In her interview, they took her through her original statement once again, and gave her an opportunity to volunteer any information she may have missed out on. Now you've had time to think about it, the shock is kind of wearing off. Maybe you might have missed something or told us a little fib. You want to clear up with us?
Shot in your driveway. Becky, don't get yourself in something now. You can't get yourself out of it, please.
I understand that. No, I do.
Nah, Becky said, no, I don't remember making that call. You must be joking. I don't even know whose number that is. And so the detectives literally made Becky go one by one through every contact in her phone to say who this is. Like, or let's start with the A's. Who is this? What's their number?
DJ? Right. Oh, that's my son, Dustin.
Eventually, she did get to Larry Ollie, and yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah, that's my sister's boyfriend. Oh, that's whose number is." Plain forgot that we had had that conversation.
When you started writing that, and they're telling us the same thing too. And look at the difference in the writing. Nice and neat, nice and neat, nice and neat. Then we go over to sister's fiancé, and it looks like the third grade a little bit. Okay, this is where you need to think deep. You were very so specific about everything until we got down to this. And here's the thing, Lee. What happens happens. Whether you, I, or the other people that are in these rooms over here can change what happened. But you see, let me finish. Cannot change what happened. But you can change it from how it goes on here now by telling the truth.
Hey.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So take a deep breath and tell us who you talked to 5 minutes before your husband was killed in your driveway, getting out of his truck in the back of the head. We're asking you questions we know the answers to, Becky. And I'm telling you that. So tell us who you were talking to 5 minutes before Rob got shot. Because I'm telling you, the federal investigation, the FBI, we are looking into this as a federal crime.
And I understand that.
She just keeps saying, I understand that. I understand that. Lady, tell who you was talking to on that damn phone. Like, the gig is up at this point. Your lie, you started off good, you know, with her acting when she first called 911. That's okay. But now we at a point where you lied about one of the most dumb things ever, talking about you don't remember having no phone call for those 5 minutes right before your husband was freaking shot. And now you want to sit right here and play this game? Just tell who the freak you was on the phone with.
So who did you talk to 5 minutes before your husband was gunned down in the driveway? Becky, we know the answer. So you can let us do the talking for you, or you can do the talking for yourself. And please tell the truth.
But she was saying, you know, I actually don't know him that much. We've only hung out like once or twice. Don't really know him that well. Then in a later interview, Becky said, oh yeah, okay, we had actually talked that night. He'd called me shortly before Robbie was killed. I had to ask him a question. It was a very, very, very important question that has absolutely nothing to do with murder. The question was, you guys should get more floodlights outside the house. Kind of dark there.
So what did you talk to him about? And do not lie, because we're telling you, answering your question, we already know the answer to. We know his history. We know everything about him.
I don't know.
So who was it?
My sister's fiance.
The one you don't know much about, correct?
And I don't know much about him.
Then what did you talk to him about?
Well, he wanted to know if what Rob and I were doing is coming this weekend. I don't know what. I mean, I know what happened to Rob in my driveway, but I don't know who did it. I don't know. I honestly don't know who did it.
Sorry, but you didn't even tell us about the conversation. We had to get to this point.
Look how long we went through this to get this.
I'm sorry. I didn't know
Look at this paperwork. Look at all that. Nothing about him calling until we pull it out of you. The longer you keep it up, the worse it looks on you.
And I understand that, but
tell us the truth.
I didn't know anything about that.
Tell us the truth.
I'm seeing you didn't say anything about a phone call. Do you not think that's pertinent? I'm here talking to you. I rehash everything about what happened that night. You don't think I don't remember? I listened to the recording multiple times from our conversation that night, and you don't even mention it again. I go through that, you skip right over it. I don't know him that well.
I don't know him that well.
You're here for a reason. I didn't call him for here. He is here. He does an exceptional job. And guess what? Like you said, you can alter that. You can't alter that.
Hey.
I didn't tell anybody to hurt my husband.
Tell us what happened. Tell us what happened.
I did not know.
You need to tell us what happened.
I did not know any. I have only met him a few times.
But you had a 5-minute conversation with him.
He basically asked what we were up to. Does Rob work this weekend?
So then the police asked, well, if that's what all you were talking about, why did you delete the call and then deny ever making the call? And she said, well, I didn't want you guys to think we were having an affair or something, which sort of like only makes it look like you're having an affair.
Well, this young man asked you how many times, any more phone calls, any more phone calls, any more phone calls. Every time you started getting nervous. Right? Because you knew we were coming to that phone call list, right?
I didn't want you to think that I was having an affair with him because I have not had an affair.
Like, she just one of these terrible ass liars, being team. Long story short, story long. And it's like, the affair part is crazy too. But even the part when she bust out and was like, I didn't tell nobody to shoot my husband. We ain't said you did that either. We just trying to ask you who the freak you was talking to on the phone. You telling on yourself right now without even knowing it, lady. Becky, come on, man. What the freak? Like I said too, at this point, she might as well just go and spill the fucking beans. And I like how the detectives are on her ass. Like, they was there. They was hitting her like, hey, fess up. And then it also seemed like she came up into this, interrogation, I should say, and she ain't even have a game plan. Like, they was asking her a question and it seemed like she was coming up with answers as she went along. She wasn't even prepared with her lies. I'm glad she wasn't. Let's go.
It should be noted, though, that allegedly Robbie was a very insecure man. He needed constant reassurances that things were going well and the relationship was solid. Becky tried her best to comfort him and says to this very day she never cheated on him, nor any other previous partners, but, well, I mean, come on. So though Becky and Larry Sr.'s interviews got their, gears grinding, and it seemed pretty clear that Robbie was in that letter, they had found Robbie was talking about Larry Richmond Sr. Becky and Larry had been having an affair. It was when the police spoke to Junior, Larry Richmond Jr., that's kind of when the wheels of conspiracy began to turn, and those gears were grinding. He was quite upfront with the detectives, wasn't like his dad who immediately lawyered up. Junior was like, yeah, here, have a go at my phone, knock yourselves out. And like immediately, on Junior's phone, they found a Taurus Judge, the likely murder weapon. Then they found text conversations between Junior and Senior about that gun, and Junior admitted, yeah, he had worked at the pawn shop. He had stolen that gun, and a couple of days after he had stolen it, he had given it to his dad. Which, by the way, is a felony, as his dad was a convicted felon. According to Junior, his father had told him specifically, if shit was to go down, bury the gun. Becky's sister and Larry's, girlfriend, Amanda Fillmore, she was questioned, where was Larry Richmond the night of the murder? And she actually gave the detectives a quick worry by saying, I think he was home. We were just kind of chilling all night, watching a flick. But then she remembered, I have no idea where he was that night. I'd actually been looking for him. And she had texts to prove that she had been calling him like, where are you? So Larry Richmond Sr. has no alibi for the night of Robbie Doerr's murder. At this stage, the police were believing that the murder weapon had been buried, as Junior had been told to bury it if shit goes down. The police were like, well, the most likely place it would be buried would be in Amanda's home where Larry Richmond Sr. was living. They found him on CCTV with a bag that looked like it was probably filled with guns. They dug up, the backyard all around the place. They did actually find a bag filled with guns, which again meant Senior was up shit creek as a felon. That's a big no-no, but they did not find that silver Taurus Judge, the murder weapon. All of the guns they found had their serial numbers filed down, so he was clearly up to no good, and that meant he was up shit creek. That all presented some serious felony charges for Senior. He pled out and ultimately got 5 years for that.
Evansville police say Larry Richmond Sr. pleaded guilty to federal weapons charges. Richmond is a convicted murderer. The police say Richmond will be sentenced in November for possessing and obliterating the serial numbers on 2 guns. February, on the one-year anniversary of the murder, EPD named Richmond a person of interest in the death of fireman Robert Dorr. Currently.
And just another fucked up thing that I gotta point out too real quick, Bean Team, is the fact that Becky was cheating. No, hold on. Larry was cheating on Amanda with Becky, and Becky is Amanda's sister. You know what I'm saying, man? Becky cheating with her sister's husband. Like that is, well, I don't know, they weren't married, but regardless of the fact, and I know that Becky and Amanda's not like biologically sisters, but they grew up together pretty much as being adopted sisters together in the home, man. And then you end up doing this ish like this. Crazy. It's like a lot of different craziness up in this one.
So in March of 2019, less than a month after Robbie Dorr, a much liked father, friend, servant of his community, was gunned down on his front porch, police were now looking very, very closely at Becky Fox Dorr and what was her involvement in all this, because her involvement seemed to be kind of like bigly involvement-y. It was a day after the detectives found the big old box of guns that they finally moved to arrest her, but not for murder, not yet at least. Instead, it would be for the obstruction charges, her denying the phone calls. She bonded out, and while she nervously awaited a potential trial, Becky's son, Robbie's stepson, Nathaniel, contacted the police wanting to talk to the detectives handling the case. See, he had found something interesting. It would turn out that on the day of Robbie Dorr's funeral, they were getting, plenty of sympathy cards, mass cards, all that kind of thing sent to the family, God rest his soul. And so Nathaniel was kind of gathering up all of these sympathy cards that people had sent in. And as he was picking up one card in particular, a little piece of paper dropped out of it. He's like, whoa, what's that? Bent down to pick it up. It read, "We need to talk. Larry." He opened up the card it had been inside of, and it was signed Amanda Fillmore and Larry Richmond Sr. Amanda would be able to confirm, yep, that's the card we sent. And that's Larry's. That is his handwriting, alright. It was incredibly obvious at this point, and Larry Richmond Jr., the kid, he even admitted it and told the police, yeah, Becky and Sr. had been having an affair. Prison really must have been bad for Larry Richmond Sr. Not long after the interviews, detectives received a call from the prison in which Larry Richmond Sr. was serving the 5 years for the gun charges. Only the call they got, it wasn't from Larry. It was another inmate who got chummy with him on the inside, best friends 5 ever. The inmate shared details of several conversations he had had with Larry while in prison. He gave detectives details of the murder of Robbie Dorr and told them that Larry Sr. had told him Robbie had discovered the affair and so he had to go. Forensic technicians did a full extraction of Larry Richmond Sr.'s phone, which basically meant they had a carbon copy of Larry's phone. They could go through every single thing, and going through the 42,000 location caches on his phone, which basically almost showed you every single step he took, they were able to say that on the night of the murder, around the time of the murder, he'd been within 200 feet of the Fox Dorr, Robbie Dorr's home. On February 26th, 2019, the day Robbie was shot dead, shortly before Larry and Becky had that, mysterious deleted 5-minute phone call, Larry had opened up on his phone a police radio scanner app. So you can listen in to police radio, police frequencies. It's usually used by hobbyists and criminals. And Larry wasn't using it for hobbies. Larry's phone was powered off right after the phone call with Becky, and it wasn't turned back on until roughly 9 minutes after the murder, at 7:14 p.m, when he checked the police radio app once again. The phone pinged 15 times about 200 feet from the murder scene, minutes before the murder went down, and police later found CCTV of him in the area after the shooting.
It's like, man, there's so much evidence against them, y'all. Like, seriously, man, we know what happened. We don't even need either one of them to confess and actually admit what happened at this point in time. Charge both of them with murder and lock them up both with freaking murder, life in prison. Long story short, short story long. Especially Becky. Well, especially both of them, but you get what I'm saying. Don't let her off the hook.
7 months after Evansville PD detectives charged Becky with withholding information and obstruction of justice in connection with her husband's murder, news broke on October 25th, 2019, that the charges were surprisingly and suddenly dropped. Before anyone could go thinking, though, they made a mistake, it was actually made clear by the prosecutor's office that they had only taken the decision to drop the charges at the request of the police department, as to not jeopardize their murder investigation. While authorities were clear that they wouldn't be taking Larry Sr. to trial until after he'd completed his 5-year sentence on the gun charges, they wanted Larry to spend as much time as possible in prison. They didn't want him to, serve anything concurrently. It's like, no, we're going to wait till you've done that one, and then we're going to give you another one. They were still, though, investigating the case and Becky Dorr, Fox Dorr, as a co-conspirator. It took until July 2022 for the prosecutors to get their legal ducks in a row and present their evidence to a grand jury. And that's where Becky Dorr really messed up and gave the authorities an easy in. Becky continued to lie about the affair her and Larry Sr. were having. And I mean, it was one thing to lie to the police about the affair they were having, right? Gonna lie away, lads. But, when you're lying to a grand jury, you're now committing perjury, which is not good for you to do. So she was kind of up shit creek. While the proceedings of the grand jury were sealed, at one point she was asked directly, were you, in a romantic affair with Larry? She said no, contradicting multiple evidence that the police had, and witness statements, all that. Junior, Larry Richmond Jr. would say, he had seen them making out and everything. Wow, Larry Richmond Sr. was really desperate after prison. That led then to her arrest for perjury in August of 2022. Her bond was set at $50,000, and while she was in jail, she was informed, here's a little something to keep you up at night, you're being charged with murder.
Well, Dorr's widow Elizabeth Fox Dorr and Larry Richmond Sr. have been charged with murder in connection to the case. Robert Dorr was murdered February 26 of 2019 after finishing his shift as a firefighter. Dorr died in the driveway of his home after being shot multiple times.
This senseless, selfish act will forever leave a void in the lives of Robbie's family, his friends, and his co-workers.
The probable cause affidavit discusses previously unknown details from this case. Police documents detail a letter written by Robert to his wife describing issues of infidelity. It also describes Larry Richmond Jr. stealing a gun from a pawn shop where he worked and giving it to his dad, Larry Richmond Sr.
We are relieved that the long wait is over and the individuals involved in this murder are being brought to justice for not only Robbie's murder, but the pain they have caused his family, his friends, and our department.
And I gotta say real quick too, shout out to Larry Richmond Jr. Shout out to Junior, because Junior was very upfront with the police. He admitted, yes, I did steal a gun from the pawn shop. Yes, I used to work at this pawn shop. Yes, I did steal that gun. Yes, I did give it to my daddy. Yes, they have been effing around. Here go my phone. You can check it all. He was the most upfront out of everybody in the case, who would know who was in the know the most. You know what I'm saying, man? And he did not try to protect his father at all. So we gotta at least give him credit for that.
Ultimately, the perjury charge was eventually dismissed, but it was a doorway for the authorities to get Becky to court. And so, her trial finally began more than 5 years after Robbie's murder, on May 6th, 2024. Becky entered a plea of not guilty to charges of aiding, inducing, or causing murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
Elizabeth Fox Dorr thought she could delete a phone call and get away with murder, but what she didn't count on was the Evansville Police Department. Every effort and resource was put into the investigation of this case. Throughout the course of the trial, the state will present it all. From law enforcement to lay witnesses, photographic, digital evidence, videotaped interviews with the defendant. And after you see it all, we'll ask you to find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and murder. On the night of February 26, 2019, the defendant was in the kitchen while her lover and co-conspirator, Larry Richmond Sr., was outside of her home in the alleyway. They talked on the phone that night and finalized their plans to kill her husband, Robert Dorr. an Evansville firefighter who would soon be returning home from his overtime shift at the hose house.
The trial was by no means a cut-and-shut deal. While there was an incredible amount of evidence, there was actually shockingly little non-circumstantial evidence pointing to Becky. It all pointed to Larry.
There will be no evidence that Becky Dorr had any conversation with anyone about killing anyone. That doesn't exist. That is a speculative, suppositional, grandiose suggestion to support a charge that should have never been filed.
All the evidence pointed to Larry being the killer, being the only one involved in the murder, but without Becky, Larry doesn't kill Robbie. There's no reason for Larry to murder him.
Larry Richmond would have never thought to kill Robbie Dorr if it wasn't for the defendant.
I mean, the only evidence they had that Becky was actually responsible for her husband's murder was a phone call, a mysterious phone call that she then deleted with somebody she was having an affair with, and the person she was having an affair with killed her husband. But that's it. It's actually kind of like, it's not much. But the prosecution said Becky was motivated by the financial benefits she would receive from Robbie's 30-year career pension with the Evansville Fire Department, from which she would have paid Larry Sr. for the murder. A lot of the prosecution's argument was based entirely on the notion that Larry was very much probably the trigger man. There was simply no way Becky could have, not seen him or not known he was there. He shot literally from her doorway. The problem was also the lack of a smoking gun. Quite literally, in this case, the Taurus Judge, the murder weapon, it's never been found. Really, the most damning argument against Becky was the mysteriously deleted phone call minutes before her husband was murdered. That dirty little secret she had. The thing is, that's something her family admitted she did regularly. She deleted phone calls from her logs. Allegedly, Becky was under the impression that phone logs take up memory. And so you gotta clear them out. Delete all your phone call history so you're not clogging up your phone.
That anyone talked to anyone about killing anyone. And what was his answer? No.
Thing was, though, on the day of Robbie's murder, there was one single phone call she deleted. The one to Larry. One she then even denied, even happening later on. And saying she didn't know Larry at all, when Larry's own son would confirm they were having an affair.
What happened? Did she exit the vehicle?
Yes.
And did anything happen before she got out of the car?
They kissed.
They kissed?
Mm-hmm.
The entire thing was more like of a case of a whole lot of little things. It's like being nibbled to death by a hamster, but like a really evil hamster. Jury deliberations began on May 14, 2024. After 6 days of evidence and witness testimonies, several hours of deliberations ended in a guilty verdict for Becky Fox Dorr.
State of Indiana versus Elizabeth Joanne Fox Dorr. Verdict: we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 1 as charged in the information signed and dated this date. Verdict: count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 2 as charged in the information signed and dated this date.
Good, man, because I was getting a little nervous right there for a second, Bean Team, because I get what Mike was saying. It wasn't like a lot of it wasn't no just hard evidence that she had anything to do with it, other than that mysterious phone call that she decided to delete and acting like she don't even know who freak Larry Sr. is for real. When come to find out, Larry Jr. said y'all been effing around and kissing and all that. Let's finish it up. I'm glad she got charged and she is guilty.
I know you all do not want to hear from me, and nothing I say can change anything. I also know you are devastated, angry, and need someone to blame. I feel the same way. Regardless what the verdict says, I am innocent of these crimes. I never asked anyone to harm or murder my husband. My world came crashing down on the night of February 26, 2019. I was in shock, devastated, lost, and I've never really been the same since.
Becky was sentenced to a whopper 60 years. That was essentially a whole life sentence. But just to make sure she got the message, The judge added on another 30 years for the conspiracy to commit murder charge, for a total of 90 years. Larry Richmond Sr. has only just finished his sentence on the gun charges, and thanks to detectives holding off until that sentence was complete, his trial is now set to begin in March 2025. I mean, I know it's all, innocent until proven guilty, but when Becky, who, there wasn't exactly a hell of a lot of evidence that pointed towards her, just got 90 years. Things ain't looking so good for Larry Richmond Sr. Wouldn't want to be in his shoes. The only thing he got going for him is he's probably pretty comfortable in prison, so start stocking up on ramen, buddy. You're gonna need it. It just sucks that, he wasn't out of prison for very long, and she's who he had an affair with? She's more severe than your prison sentence. And that's the end of that chapter. Thank you so much for watching this whole video, folks. It means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it interesting. Please check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a brand new episode out every single Monday morning, with some bonus episodes out on Fridays. Of course, your listener stories are great. Please keep sending them in. Lately, we're talking about the case of Alan Leger, who is the monster of Miramachi. He's a crazy Canadian serial killer. He was locked up, he escaped prison, and went on the rampage for 6 months, doing all sorts of things to this small town in Canada. It's an absolutely wild story, so please check it out, or the myriad other stories we have there. You can check out the merch down below, or check out the Patreon, where for $2 a month, you get early access to every single video. And also, there's a Patreon-only playlist there of Patreon-exclusive videos, so please check that out. But until the next video, until next Tuesday or whenever, please take care of each other, and please take care of your bad self. Because I love you. Mike out.
Man, Bean Team, this one right here, it was crazy, man, but it was crazy on so many different layers to it. You know what I'm saying? It was so many different details, I should say, that went into this case, man. And I'm glad that the police was able to gather up all these details to come up with this verdict, man. Because like what Mike said at the end, now that Becky got 90 years, we know goddamn Larry ass, you done. They gonna give you 90 plus 90. You gonna get 180. You know what I'm saying? He through, and then he got past murder charges. He in jail right now, or prison right now, doing 5 years because he ain't supposed to have no goddamn guns to begin with, and he got a bag full of guns that he done hid in the yard and all that craziness right there. So we not worried about Larry, man. Larry gonna freaking get he ain't getting back out of prison, and she ain't either, man. So like I said, man, I'm just glad that all those different details came together so we could give them both the verdict of guilty, because for a minute it was a little shaky with Becky, man. It was a little shaky because I wish we had some evidence, there was an actual recording of the phone call that she had with Larry or something like that. We really don't even know what that phone call was about. But when you put everything together, we pretty much know what it was about. Robbie is about to be here. He in a couple of minutes. Where are you at? Type ish, and Larry I'm outside. I'm beside the house. I'm gonna shoot him and I'm gonna get in the. You know what I'm saying? It was the setup phone call. That's what it was, man. I don't care what nobody say, and that's why at the end I started playing the violin, Bean Team, when she gave her last statement and talking about, I know ain't nobody gonna believe me. You goddamn right, cause I'm over here playing the violin right now, and everything that you saying going in one ear and out the other, lady. You are freaking guilty. You lied about so much ish. You denied having an affair. You had amnesia and forgot about the phone call. And one more thing, y'all. One more thing. I'm gonna let y'all go because I know we have been here long enough. One more thing. Her family talking about she usually delete call logs and stuff. Anyway, I don't really even feed into that BS. I kind of feel like I want to call BS on that too when they say because she thinks that it takes up memory in her phone. Who the ever thought that take up memory in your freaking phone, man? And I'm saying that it is possible that she be deleting call logs, but the reason is because she trying to hide her affairs and the crazy life that she was living, doing stuff behind Robbie back and all that ish like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why she probably deleting phone calls and probably was deleting them from from Larry too, trying to hide what her and Robbie be talking about, man. The lady was caught up in a love affair, and it's crazy that she ended up getting her freaking husband killed over this ish, and she was cheating with her freaking sister boyfriend. I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go, BT. Appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.